When I joined the Royal Tank Regiment in 1983, Cold War tensions were high. We trained for the day when Soviet forces might have invaded across the East German border. If they had done so, they would have been spearheaded by tanks like this, the T-72. Fortunately, that day never came, but if it had, we'd have been waiting for them in this, the Chieftain main battle tank. So how would these legends of the Cold War fared in a face-to-face confrontation? Let's start with the British-designed Chieftain, weighing in at 55 tons. Developed in the 1950s, it was adopted as the British Army's MBT in the 1960s, being retired in favour of Challenger 1 in the 1990s. It's got presence, it's got prowess, but rather unfairly, it doesn't have the best reputation. That's because of the Leyland L60 engine, which in its early incarnations was horribly unreliable. The issues were pretty much sorted by the time I joined up, but it remained a relatively maintenance-hungry beast. It was a powerful engine though, being able to push the Chieftain to 30 miles per hour. And when it did fail, the entire engine and cooling system could be removed from the vehicle and completely replaced in less than 2 hours, keeping operational downtime to a minimum. So that was absolutely fantastic. So good to get back in the driver's cab of Chieftain. Now, of course, a bit heavy on the steering, gear changes. I'm certainly very rusty and they could have been a lot better than they are, but what a joy. Its weight came from its standout feature, its armour. The frontal armour was 120 millimetres thick. The turret was even better with the addition of steel brew. It certainly gave us great confidence in the protection offered by this tank. But perhaps the best feature of the Chieftain was the formidable 120mm L11A5 rifle gun. It was capable of accurately engaging targets at long distances. In fact, the L11A5 still holds the record for the longest tank versus tank kill, which it achieved whilst mounted in a Challenger 1 tank in 1991. The Chieftain carried 64 rounds of main armament ammunition, both APDS, armoured piercing discarding sabot, and HESH, high explosive squash head, so we can engage both hard and soft-skinned targets as the situation dictated. Now the turret itself is pretty roomy, and you'll see the difference once we jump into the T-72. Next, the T-72, the tank we trained endlessly to fight. Emerging in the 1970s, the T-72 became the most numerous tank in the Warsaw Pact arsenal. It remains in service today, the T-72B being the most numerous tank in the modern Russian army. Unlike the Chieftain, the T-72 was exported to a range of other countries, with over 25,000 being built, compared to the 900 or so Chieftains in British service. Unlike the Chieftain, the T-72 has been thoroughly tested in wars, featuring in over 30 conflicts around the world, including the current war in Ukraine. At 41 tons, it's visibly smaller, and with a top speed of 45 miles per hour, it was designed to be agile, with torsion bar suspension ensuring a smooth ride. Well, the weight difference certainly shows there. It is so responsive compared to the Chieftain. It corners really, really well, and is actually really quite fast. The speed advantage comes with a compromise in armour thickness to lessen the weight. The armour lacks the sophistication of that of the Chieftains. The main armament for the T-72 was a 125mm smoothbore gun, supported by a laser rangefinder. It was a simple but effective fire control system. As the gun is an autoloader, there is only a requirement for a crew of 3, as opposed to the 4 required for Chieftain. Now this doesn't make the turret any roomier, as you can clearly see. The Soviets used to often sacrifice ergonomics and comfort for design and economy. So how do they stack up against each other in a fight? The Chieftain's strength would come in the form of its thick armour, powerful gun and highly trained professional crews. Our strategy, if attacked by the Soviets, was to occupy pre-prepared positions and pick off the approaching enemy T-72s in hull-down positions. We would have felt pretty comfortable and confident in our abilities, our vehicles and those of our NATO allies. But the T-72s can move fast, and there were a huge number of them. Our biggest fear was that we would be outnumbered and overwhelmed, with the T-72s flanking or encircling our positions. But not all Soviet crews would have been as well trained and motivated as we were. And we have seen in Ukraine how poor logistics, low morale, low confidence in superiors, etc., can have a significant impact on the will to fight and dramatically change the outcome of any battle. Despite the dramatic strengths and weaknesses of both of these vehicles, we must conclude that the best tank is the one with the best crew.